Hi, this is Joe again. In this recording, I'm going to make sure my Eclipse is up to date, and I'm going to install a few plugins that I find very useful for doing Java development in Eclipse. This is the Eclipse I just ran. It's on an empty workspace, so I'm immediately going to go to Help, check for updates, and Eclipse is going to go out there and look at all the default update sites that come with it and ensure that it is completely up to date. Typically when you download a new Eclipse, it is not entirely up to date because there have been small patches and updates made available after they made a snapshot of the last release. Doing a full update and contacting all sites, which is the default behavior, can take some time because typically there are anywhere from a handful to a few dozen update sites that it has to contact. So each of those web servers has to respond to the update request. And since they're scattered all over the world as well, even though they're mirrored, this can take a little bit of time. The first time you run this, it's actually grabbing quite a bit of data from the servers, and future updates take a bit less time. It seems we happen to have grabbed a download that is in fact up to date, so it's happy as is. If we go into Install New Software from the Help menu, you can see that there are a number of update sites pre-included with it, including Galileo, which is this release of Eclipse. There's Eclipse project updates, which are updates to this particular release. Galileo is 3.5, and then some other stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding some new update sites for the software I'm interested in. So I'm going to go to my web browser. I'm going to search for those pieces of software, each in turn adding their update sites. The first that I'm going to use is called CheckStyle. And I'm going to Google search for CheckStyle Eclipse, and I'm going to find the Eclipse-CS plugin. This is the plugin that supports CheckStyle, which is a code style checker for Eclipse. So if we go to download and installation, it will give us a update site that I can cut and paste. So I'm going to cut and paste that guy, go back to Eclipse, add an update site, check style, paste in the URL, and click OK. So it will go and look at that update site. I will next go to Find Bugs, Eclipse. And go to the Find Bugs website. Go to the Downloads button. And here's the official update site for new releases of Find Bugs. So I'll cut and paste that into Eclipse, add update site, Find Bugs, paste, OK. Next up is PMD, Eclipse. I'm going to go to the PMD website for the Eclipse install instructions and cut and paste its update site into Eclipse. PMD, paste, OK. And lastly for now, I'm going to use the Metrics plugin for Eclipse. There are two of these available. The one I use is Metrics 1.3.6, which is a bit older, but I find it to be more reliable. The update site is here, which you can cut and paste. Add Metrics, paste, OK. Now we have several new update sites that have appeared in this menu. I'm going to click all available sites to see all the software that I might install in Eclipse. As you can see, it's hiding the ones that are already installed. So this is just a big, huge list of stuff that I could choose to install. I'm going to go ahead and install these 4 plugins at the same time into my Eclipse. So the first one I'm interested in is CheckStyle. So if I search for CheckStyle, I will see the CheckStyle plugin here. CheckStyle 5 supports Java 5 and beyond. I'll then search for Find Bugs, and I will click on the Find Bugs feature, which is an amalgamation of the Find Bugs plugin and some supplementary stuff. I'll search for PMD, grab the PMD plugin, and search for metrics, and grab the metrics plugin. So now if I go back to the big list and browse through it, I will see that these particular plugins I've chosen are all selected on this list. So I'll click Next. It'll go out and make sure I have everything I need to install these four latest versions of these plugins. Clicking Next, I will agree to the license agreements. These are all open source plugins. Clicking Finish, and download all the plugins and install them. Now, to remind you, I'm doing this all on a clean and empty workspace because indeed, when you install new plugins, it does dump information about those plugins in your workspace and snapshots of any plugins you might be replacing. And if you're switching workspaces frequently, that can leave a bit of clutter behind in your various workspaces. So in general, I have one workspace that I always use for installing new software and for upgrading software. Downloading these plugins should only take a few seconds. None of them are enormous, but you do have to wait for the web server to respond. Then they will all install, and then it will suggest that I restart Eclipse, and I always agree to that because I can go right back to where I was in my workspace after I restart. These days, with this new version of Eclipse, it's warning us again when you are downloading and installing Java archive files that aren't signed. Most of them are not signed out there in the real world, so as long as you know you're coming from a trusted site, you're okay. So I'm going to click OK. All plugins have been installed, so it asks if I'd like to restart. I say yes. And in restarting, I go ahead and let it go back to the same clean workspace I was on before. I'll put away my web browser. And to double check that everything was installed and happy, I can always do Eclipse About. And the installation details button here is one way that I can get a list of everything that's installed. So for example, here it will show the installed software, which as you can see, it has the 4 things I just installed, plus all the built-in stuff underneath the Eclipse platform. It keeps a history of everything I've installed and when, which features I have installed, which plugins I have installed. Remember, plugins are a piece of features, are the components that make up features. And then my overall configuration, which says which version of Java I'm running and these sorts of things. So that completes my installation of all the software I need to do some development for the class. And in my next screencast, I will build the project for homework number 0.